Today I'm going to show you how to shorten an invisible zipper. This is a finished invisible zipper. We're going to start with it. And if you turn it to the back side, you'll notice that there's these little plastic places that make the zipper stop. And at the bottom, it's the same thing. It's actually done with a machine and it's melted. But you don't need to do that. And then I've simulated a back of a dress. This is the facing. I've done a stay stitch. Obviously you wouldn't probably do it in black like I've done it, but I've done it so that you can see it. And I'm also going to sew my zipper on with a black thread. And I normally start, I'm going to start with the bottom, down at the bottom of my dress, even though it says Ralph Lauren Home. This is a dress. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to align my zipper with my seam allowance. And I'm going to stop just about 1/4 of an inch shy of my facing. I'm using my zipper foot. And I'm simply going to stitch this in someplace. And I'm going to use relatively long stitches. As I get to the bottom, I'm not going to go quite to the end of my zipper, and I'll show you why in just a sec. Then I'm going to fold the other side of the dress over the top, align the bottoms, pin it on, and I have to assume that you've probably serge this edge. I'm going to match up where my facings meet at the top, pin that on my zipper, and then I'm going to simply do the same thing I did on the other side. I'm going to just simply stitch it in. I'm starting at the same place that I stopped. I'm aligning my zipper with my seam allowance. And I'm going to stop about 1/4 of an inch from, again, my facing at the top. So now my zipper is in position. Now this is something I do really a lot. I have a tendency to cut off my pull. And so at this point I want you to think about where your pull is. I'm going to pull my zipper all the way down to the bottom, and I'm going to open my zipper. And to finish off this zipper, all I'm going to do is I'm going to put it under, I'm going to stitch in the ditch, which if with an invisible zipper you know that it kind of folds open, and all I'm going to do is stitch in that fold till I get to my facing. At my facing, I'm going to do a little fold and a tuck with my zipper. I want it to go all the way to the top, unless I'm going to put a hook and an eye up here. But I want it to go all the way to the top. I'm going to open it up, and when I get to the top, I'm simply going to sew over the top of my zipper like that. And you can see that I have excess zipper here. I'm not going to cut that real short, being neurotic. Like that. And I'm going to turn around and do that on the other side. I'm folding the teeth under so that they're flat. I'm folding back my zipper right where the facing meets the top of my dress. You have to fiddle with it just a hair. And then I'm going to back stitch over the facing again, because I'm going to fold the facing under and hand stitch it, so you'll never see that. I'm folding open my zipper, doing the stitch in the ditch thing. A lot of people press their zipper open. I am way too lazy to do that. And I'm going to get all the way down to the bottom and stop. Because I do home deck more than I do home sewing for fashion, I have a tendency not to backstitch. It's just something that takes a little bit more time when you're doing home deck, and it's usually not needed. And so if you feel more comfortable backstitching, you can, but you really don't have to. Then you're going to zip this up. And there it is. It's totally, well, you can see a tad bit of it, but not very much. And I can help you fix that in just a minute. And then what I want to do is down here at the bottom, where the tail of my zipper is, I'm going to just flip this open. And depending on, and I'm pulling my zipper out, depending on what type of a sewing machine you have, my zipper foot, my needle moves. This is a Bernina 950. And I'm going to move the light down just a little tiny bit so you can see this. And what I want to do is that I want to stitch as close to that last stitching line as I possibly can. And I am going to backstitch just because I don't want this seam to unravel. And I'm going to go on down the rest of the dress. Now at this point you can, this has got already has the melted place for the stop, but you could very easily take this if you were shortening it from the other side and simply go over the bottom of your zipper a couple of times. There it is. You can clip this off. Open this up and your zipper is ready to go. Now then, if you don't like how far away this is, you can go back in and do it a little bit tighter. I usually don't. What I do instead is that I press this smooth so that it's exactly even, and then I use something called Jody's tape. And I actually put the Jody's tape in between my seam allowance and the face of my fabric. And what that does is that it keeps it from falling, from pulling apart. This is Jody's tape. And what this is that this is a two-sided tape. I use it with my iron, but you don't have to. But I think it gives you a much better bond if you do. And basically it looks like it's brown paper on one side and sticky, but it's really sticky on both sides. And so all you do is open this up, and this happens to be 3/8, which is my favorite length, or width rather, and you put it in your seam allowance the whole way down, cut it off. I have a tendency to press this because it makes the paper release just a little bit easier. No, and it may not do it without the iron. Because I'm using a fabric that has a finish on it. There it goes. Now can you see just that little tiny, here I'll roll this back so maybe you can see that. It's almost transparent. You can barely see it. And you can see the other end of it right here. And then all I do is once I get the Jody's tape in there, I simply press this down like that, and that will keep your zipper from popping open and showing. And that's all there is to it. Real simple. Now if at the other end, if you have the equivalent of a hanging chad, you cut this off. You've already sewn over it and secured it. The zipper is going to come all the way up to the top, And then all you're going to do is you're going to fold this back, tuck, whoops, I'm going to tuck the zipper into my seam allowance, fold this back, tuck it so that it's nice and tidy, and hand stitch that down. And there you have it. That's what I call a down and dirty zipper. Thanks a lot. Go to my website, thezipperlady.com, and we have finished zippers, and we also have zippers by the yard. This happens to be a number 2, and the next video is going to be about how to cut and use yardage in a number 4. Thanks a bunch. Bye-bye.